Did you like the movie Casino?
You open it up.
Casino.
Yes, Casino. Go ahead.
1995, Martin Scorcese, a classic, I'd say, for a lot of people. Martin Scorsese, Sharon Stone, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, James Woods, and a whole lot of other Goomba type actors. Is that derogatory? Was that like a racist term, Goomba, for Italian Americans or Italians? Do you know?
I don't know. I would imagine something.
I hope it doesn't offend anyone, any of our 2 listeners that pick up on that. But I know Scorsese tends to put people in his movies that are not actors, which I admire and respect, and I think you can tell, and I think it's good because they're usually pretty damn good on camera and convincing. I had never seen this movie, man. It's something I'd been wanting to check out for a long, long time, and now that I've lived in Las Vegas for a little over 2 years now, this is going to resonate a little bit more with me. It's set in 1983, Las Vegas, I believe. That's actually when it opened, so it probably goes back into the 70s. I can't remember if they specify the exact dates, but it's based on true events. Follows De Niro and Joe Pesci as they integrate themselves into this world of Las Vegas. De Niro is given, I think, some sort of public relations title at a casino called Tangiers, and he's really basically the guy who oversees the entire joint and how it's operated, and he's the eyes that are everywhere in the casino. But really at the core of it, what I found is this is a really fucked up love story. And it's I don't think going over the plot is relevant because it's such a long movie and it's pretty intricate. But I would assume this is a lot like what Vegas was in the 70s, 80s, which definitely has a charm to it. And problems are handled in a very authoritative and specific way. Say if somebody's a cheat in the casino, they're taken to the back and their kneecaps are busted, their hands are hit with hammers, which is shown in the movie. If it's really bad, they're carved out a hole in the desert somewhere. But I was thinking about this. This is representing tiny Vegas. Vegas has spread out quite a bit since this time. And you had a house in an area of Las Vegas called Centennial Hills, which is kind of in the outskirts, anyone who knows the lay of the land here. I'm wondering, man, how many dead bodies were kind of around that house that you lived in? Because that shit was barren wasteland for a long, long time until, I would say, probably 10, 15 years ago. Anyways, just food for thought there. Maybe you can touch base on that.
There's a great opportunity there.
Yeah.
When they had the big drought in Vegas,
okay,
that's exactly what happened. You hear about that?
No,
so the water got so low, they found bodies at the bottom of the fucking lake.
Lake Mead?
Yeah, Lake Mead.
Yeah.
That sounds right. They had bodies.
Sure, man. You just handle these problems like that. It's common knowledge, I think, at this point. But yeah, who knows what was out there in the desert. It was really cool to see this, man. I thought the photography was amazing. It was beautiful to see. I think if I could travel back in time to one time period and experience Las Vegas, it would probably be more Rat Pack 60s. I think if that was my first choice, but my second would be around this time because it's kind of like the Wild West. This is a really new city in the scope of this young country, but at the same time, it makes you think, just the themes in this movie, it makes you think what this city is built on and why it exists, and this culture that started everything really and resonates today. Even though it's more of a Disneyland touristy environment, this city was built on greed and lust. I would say those are the top 2 things this city's built on: greed and lust. But it's kind of fascinating. The only place in America, maybe the world, where you've got an entire city, a population of maybe over 2 million people, and that's the core of the culture here, and it still resonates today. But these performances in this movie I thought were really great. I've always liked De Niro as an actor. I know you're not a big fan of the person. His performance in this was cool. Pesci's a mixed bag for me, man. I love Home Alone. Those are fun movies. But Pesci in this, it's kind of hard to buy him as the tough guy, just with the voice and the stature and everything. Maybe that's it. He's just that little wild, rabid chihuahua that just never stops. But the star of this show, for me, hands down, and her character fucking drove me absolutely insane, was Sharon Stone. She was absolutely phenomenal in this. You couldn't have performed this role any better than that. And the layers and complexity of her evolving throughout the film and that character, just absolutely phenomenal. Really, really great. I love the movie. I enjoyed it. It was completely engaging for the 3 hours and 15 minutes, whatever the hell it was.
I've seen the movie many times. I saw it probably way too young. So it came out when I was 11. I think I saw it around when it came out.
Jesus.
I've been watching movies my whole life. Like, they'd come out, and so what happened was in Germany and Korea, where I did junior high and, well, I guess elementary school and then high school, like you could just rent movies. And my dad signed a thing where it was like, hey, he can rent whatever he wanted, which was, I don't know to say why he let me, whatever. And so I would just rent whatever. I remember seeing this as a teenager, young. And then I've seen it a couple times after because it's great. It's just depressing. Like I said, it depresses me. The whole, you got the pimp who, let's talk about James Woods, who killed it in his role as well.
Yeah.
The loser. And then you have the girl who's like hotter, better in every way, or she's not every way, because she's still kind of like, she fits actually. She fits because she thinks that's what she deserves. But from looks, you're like, she's so hot. Why is she with this freaking loser? And it's like, because that's how it happens in real life. They believe it's the best they can. Believe that's what they deserve.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's in love with him, legitimately.
Yeah, because he groomed her from a child, basically.
Yeah.
So it's all she knows. Father figure, also like a romantic figure, but he was a great loser. She killed it, obviously. She got an Oscar nod for it, or she got the Oscar for it.
I'd be shocked if she didn't win, man. I don't know.
Yeah, so she was great. I actually didn't mind Pesci. I get what you mean, though. It's hard to believe his thing. But it's because of stuff behind him. Like, everyone knows he's a loose cannon that has a group of professional, like, enforcers behind him. That's his, like, that's his job. He's like, I have the enforcers. That's my whole entire role in this world.
So he's kind of like a modern day Napoleon?
Yeah, although Napoleon wasn't as short as people say it was. The scene between those two were interesting because it was interesting to see De Niro, like, nervous about the guy. He's like, you're bringing heat on me. And he's like, you said you're bringing, like, yeah. The writer of the book, which was a nonfiction book, was the screenwriter of the movie, by the way.
Okay, I didn't know that. Oh, so it was a book beforehand.
Yeah, it's a book about like a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff was true. Sharon Stone did die of an overdose. He and his brother were killed and left in Indiana somewhere, I think. A lot of stuff was actually accurate. A lot of it, in fact. The movie itself, though, like, it's funny. I watched Siskel and Ebert before this because I want to see what they said for the review because I always love Ebert. I'm a huge fan of him. And it's funny because I don't know if you know this, but Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert had a massive feud their entire time together. They didn't like each other. Right. They professionally liked each other. They didn't like each other. They got along near his death, Siskel's desk, but Siskel hated it. Or not hated, sorry. That's not fair. He said he gave it a thumbs down. And his rationale was, this is more of Scorsese I've seen before. I haven't seen anything new. I was surprised by that. It doesn't deserve a thumbs down. But I got a little bit of what he said. It is a continuation of Casino, a in-spirit sequel type thing.
Oh, yeah, almost. It's a sequel of Casino? What do you mean?
Sorry, Goodfellas.
Oh, Goodfellas. Sorry. Okay, so Goodfellas was before this, right?
Yeah, okay. Spiritual.
So the Goodfellas would be the East Coast version. This is more, I guess, Vegas, obviously, more West Coast mob type thing. Yeah,
and it's funny. So if I had anything to say about this, I'll say this. It is good. I'm going to great review also. I did back in the day. It's well acted. It's well done. It's interesting to watch. It's dramatic. The performances are great, I think, across the board. You got to mix a little bit of truth in it. And the end is kind of funny because the villain in the end is milquetoast corporatism. Yeah. It's not some big evil like entity that's going to kill them all. It's like boring, dead mediocrity, like the Disneyland, which is great.
Well, is that nowadays too?
Yeah, and ironically, Scorsese said most modern, Marvel films are just amusement park rides, basically. Yeah. Yeah. So we saw that in film. I'll tell you the thing I don't like. The Sons of Anarchy, I've been told, is great. I know The Sopranos is great, but I really can't stand movies that glorify in any way this crap. These people are scum. All of them are scum. Every single one. Vegas is, in aggregate from what it was. You're right. You said it very well. It's a city of sin. It came off of sin. It came off of hiding money, hiding bodies. Skirting the lines, making your own freaking state within the United States, making your own freaking nation within the United States. It's all bad. And that's the roots of it. It's not like a great origin story. I don't know. I can respect it, but I also, it's like, for me, it's like watching like a movie of a serial killer. I'm like, why are we making movies about serial killers? Right. Like, I understand seeing like the dark side, like, come on, don't be a prude. But I'm like, how about things, different dark side stuff, like in big, like, wars that were like, which side was right or wrong? But I don't know. I've always hated that glorification in any way of this stuff. So interesting. Just a thought.
Yeah, I don't really think it's glorification to me. I mean, it's an internal war, really, and that this is sort of a big part of that chapter in this city. For the listener, anyone who cares, I bartend in Las Vegas on the Strip. The thing I've really picked up on that you can call it off-putting, whatever. It just kind of is what it is. We all know it at this point, but you see it every single night. Vegas is the only place that I can think of where it's completely acceptable for people to come and be kind of the worst version of themselves. And it's almost expected. Not to say everyone does that, but it's okay, quote unquote, right? And I see it. people come in and they play a character in this city, and they almost, I can see them 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month beforehand. They know they're coming to Las Vegas. They get in their head, you know, I'm going to kind of play a character there. I'm going to be a little different. I'm going to do things I would never, ever do at home. I'm not going to be married. I'm not going to be a father. I'm not going to be a mother. And I'm just going to come and be loose and do that. And it's okay, really. And you have everything at your fingertips here if you want to live that life and have those experiences. And it's still very prevalent today. It's crazy. But these people, you're right, they're complete scum when it comes down to it. And that's why this movie's so infuriating is, you have Sharon Stone's character who's in love with her pimp, and her character, you literally want to just, you want to smack her across the face. Not to endorse hitting women at all, but watch this movie if you haven't, and you'll completely understand that sentiment. And Pesci and De Niro are, I mean, they're just as bad in the other way. And De Niro, this guy is cucked. He's powerful, yes, but you can't really respect him for how weak he is around this woman. And he's constantly attracted to this toxicity that she represents. And he would never fall for a good woman. And that was something that was blatantly obvious throughout the whole movie. This guy is just going to be this kind of loser forever because he's only going to be attracted to the debauchery and the toxicity that this woman represents. But all that shit, these themes that I'm talking about, in 2024, almost 2025, they are alive and well here in Las Vegas.
Yeah. So it actually makes me kind of backpedal a bit of my take that, it's become corporatized, but it has become corporatized, but it's not quite the gangster top it is, but it's still the same sin.
Of course, yeah, and it makes it okay in a way, is because there's this facade put over it, right? It's almost like a candy coating to make it look kind of nice and shiny. And sure, you can bring your kids; they can have fun at the pool. We have a roller coaster and some other things like an M&M store, whatever kind of bullshit. But still, at the core of it, it's all the same. It exists. Sure, the mob doesn't run it anymore, but everything you really wanted from Vegas then, you can still get it now.
Yeah, it's always a matter of context. You go to another country, you kill someone, you're a murderer. You go to another country and you kill them, the state sponsors it because they're the enemy, you're a hero. You're a soldier.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's great overall, the movie. It's Scorsese, and I guess because there's always like a message or a theme. And I guess the message theme for me has always been that I'm like, it's not glorifying it. It's just like, I don't know what it is. I watch this stuff and I think about these people. Like a long time ago, I read this some Reddit post, cringe. I hate Reddit. Anyway, some guy was talking about how this Hell's Angel, he went to a party, it was a Hell's Angel bar, he didn't know. And long story short, he talked to a guy and he was trying to have a civil conversation with him. He's like, hey, what if someone came in here and you didn't like him, whatever else? He's like, well, they'd have trouble, right? We meant to take him out. And he's like, why? He's like, because they owe respect to us. If they don't respect us, there's consequences. And it's pretty simple. And I'm like, you guys are fucking thugs. Like you're pieces of shit, sex trafficking, terrible stuff. I'm talking about Hell's Angels. Same thing with gangs. I think same with all these things, gangs, mafia, all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't like you creatures at all. And I watch this stuff and I'm like, why am I just like watching stuff about these creatures. I get why it's good, but as I've gotten older, I've disliked it more and more.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Sopranos has been on my list for a long time. I know all about being right. I'm not going to watch it. I'm never going to watch Sopranos because I'm tired of like watching stuff like that with these. I don't care if they're cautionary tales. I don't know, something about it. So just overall comment.
And it's still, to a certain extent, it's still going to glorify that culture and those type of personalities and attitudes. And there are going to be certain people, audience members, who think it's cool and they're enabled by it. I mean, do you think that's kind of part of it for yourself?
Yeah, like you'll see, like, I don't know, this is funny. Like, in, I guess from Sopranos, I'm like laughing. He says, in this house, we recognize Christopher Columbus, as a hero or something. And, recently changed Columbus Day to like Indigenous Person Day or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that meme from Sopranos went all the way around. And so everyone's laughing. They're like, I love that guy. He was always tell it like it is. It's a shame they got him in the, yada, yada. I'm like, what do you mean? These are horrible figures that do represent real people. I'm like, no, they're all horrible. They're all bad.
Yeah, just kind of, for me, it just represents a big part of why Vegas is what it is now still. And it's part of the history of it. I find it kind of fascinating. I really do. I'm glad something like this exists. But I understand what you're saying. I feel like Scorsese is, I think he's a master filmmaker. His resume, for me, proves him to be that. At the top of filmmakers of all time, I would say, inarguably, he's top 10, top 5, probably for me. And if his attention was geared more towards something of a more pertinent issue globally, then maybe you'd be more engaged or respect it more. Yeah,
I like Scorsese a lot. It's a part, all that stuff. And I guess it's always been his shtick has been like, the the mobsters, wise guys type thing. Although he did Shutter Island too, which I love. Yeah, I would like to see Scorsese do different stuff, but it's not him because he's done what? Goodfellas, Casino, Parted. What's the one? The Irishman. He's going to always do this kind of like.
He did Wolf of Wall Street, which I really enjoyed too. Yeah, Aviator was kind of cool, and again, that was sort of Vegas related with Howard Hughes.
Yeah, Aviator's interesting. I never finished it because I didn't want to get depressed because I know how it ends. I don't know if they go into it, but his sad withdrawal from life and society.
Yeah, I think he did one. It's one of his rare bombs, from what I remember. It bombed at the box office. I can't remember the name of the movie. Starred Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield, but I think it was a religious film about the origin of some sort of religion. Or do you recall that at all? What that movie may have been?
Lightly, now that you're saying it, I can't quite remember.
Man, I'm going to look it up because I don't want to just touch on that briefly. Okay, it's called Silence, 2016. This movie's 8 years old. Yeah, Adam Driver, Andrew Garfield, Liam Neeson is also in it. In the 17th century, two Portuguese Jesuit priests traveled to Japan in an attempt to locate their mentor, who is rumored to have committed apostasy. Do you know what apostasy means? I have no idea. I'm embarrassed to say. And to propagate Catholicism.
I think it's when you put a false prophet before someone or something like that.
That would make sense. Okay. Anyways, yeah, that was Scorsese as well. I don't know how many more movies the guy has left in him.
Oh, it's a disaffiliation or abandonment or re-enunciation of religion. So.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
It sounds like warping the religion or changing it or in their eyes, reforming it. Okay. Something like that.
Yeah, nice to be educated on this. Learn new words. And another thing, the practical effects on this is 1995. They probably filmed it 93, 94. When they hit the guy's hand with the hammer and it bleeds, and just the little nuance. When Nicky and his brother are beaten to death at the end with the bats, that was vicious and very, very realistic. I saw the Terrifier movies recently, and those are known for their over-the-top gore. And this is very, very real, what we saw here in this. And it's obvious to me, at least, that everything that happens in those movies is blatantly fake and over the top. I think it's meant to be. But just the work there was incredible. One question for you. Did you notice the dummy, right?
When they throw it in there?
No. Okay, so the opening shot of the movie is De Niro's character walking to his car. He starts it, and the car explodes. And it's the weirdest cut because, for maybe 0.9 seconds, which is a decent amount of time for the eye, there's a dummy. It's De Niro, then dummy, the car explodes. And this is how the movie opens. And that was my first impression of the film. And I was just like, I could not believe the edit. They didn't tighten that up. It was so bizarre to me. But you've never seen that? You should go back and look at the first 30 seconds of the movie and you'll see. It's dummy. It's so obvious it's a fake human being in there.
I'll check it out again.
Yeah, man, it's weird. Happened.
He was actually car bombed, and he was actually saved by a metal plate under his driver's seat.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah. So the opening shot, it's him starting the car up, and he blows up, and it's him flying through the sky. But the ending is a little bit different than that, which I didn't really expect. But yeah, it was cool. For me, he was the most likable character, even though it still annoyed the shit out of me that he was, making a lot of the choices he was making. But overall, there's not really any character in this movie that you're into. Maybe outside of the daughter, you feel terrible for her. She's probably going to be fucked up for life because of what she's witnessing with her dysfunctional parents. But
it is beautiful to look at, by the way. It still holds up to this day.
Really is, man. Yeah, they filmed this in the Riviera, the majority of it, which I think it's really, really difficult to film on location in Las Vegas now. Probably the last movie they did in a casino would have been The Hangover, I would guess. But we're not going to fact check that because it's not a big deal. But yeah, beautiful to watch. And really, if you want to be transported through time, you just check this out and it'll take you right back to 40 plus years ago in this really weird city that I live in.
Love it.
Yeah, man.
Score?
For me, we're doing 0 to 3. 3 is a must watch, have to watch. Own. I don't remember the barometer there. What do we got? Can we go back over that?
I don't remember enough. We got to revisit this probably next time. We'll start the podcast with it.
Okay, you know what? Well, let's go back to our old score system then. Let's go 0 to 10 and with our points. And everybody does this shit with food reviews and pizza reviews and all that crap that's on YouTube. But it's a pretty effective rating system, I think. But we're going to try and come up with something a little more effective and simple, I think, moving forward. But for today, let's go 0 through 10 if you're cool with that.
Yep. I'd say 8.
What you got?
8.3.
That's exactly what I was going to say. 8.3 on the nose. Yeah, this movie's awesome, man. Another Scorsese I want to check out with De Niro is Cape Fear. I know that's a remake. I think I saw that when I was much, much younger. I'd like to see that again. But, having done this and knocked it out, that was my recommendation. Do you have anything for us to talk about next week?
Yeah, the one that I hope we didn't miss. Did we miss it? Godzilla -1 back in theaters?
I don't know, but we can find a way to watch it. Why don't we lock that in?
I want it to be. That one's supposed to be, I think it's going to be extremely good.
Beautiful. I'll do everything I can to see that in a theater. If not, I'll just sit really close to my television and try to get that full experience. But yeah, Godzilla -1, and this is a Japanese film, right?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Cool, man. Well, that'll be next week, and we'll get into it.